Mental health is a space about protecting people, the hearts and minds of people. And so cybersecurity professionals, at the heart of our job, we are here to protect people, right? Most of what people say about what we're doing is that we are protecting technology, but what we're really doing is protecting people. And mental health is the same way. CISOs have a very hard job, and burnout is real in our community. And I think that while we're all ambitious and we're all very focused on protecting people, the first person that we need to protect is ourselves.
You're listening to the Black Hat Files, your backstage pass to cybersecurity's global stage. I'm your host, Phillip Wylie. Every month, we bring you an exclusive interview recorded live at Black Hat MEA. From the heart of the industry, these stories are worth telling. Let's crack open today's file, Cybersecurity in the Mental Health Tech Space. Our guest is Jameeka Green Aaron, CISO at Headspace. Welcome to the show, Jameeka.
Thank you for having me. This is so fantastic to talk about something that's so close to my heart.
Yes, it's something that's much needed. We overlook too much because, cybersecurity, there's the long hours, and it's just incredible that the stress we put ourselves through, and we definitely need to keep mental health in mind.
Absolutely. It's interesting because I think about the work that I'm doing now. I think about it in a multitude of different ways. Cybersecurity professionals are at the heart of our job. We are here to protect people, right? Most of what people say about what we're doing is that we are protecting technology, but what we're really doing is protecting people. And mental health is the same way. Mental health is a space about protecting people, the hearts and minds of people. And so it was easy for me to find that thread and find that commonality in between the two jobs.
And just the connection there with security, people are overworked and burn out. They're going to miss things.
Absolutely. I burned out. In my previous role, I had a phenomenal time at Okta and Auth0, and I'll tell you, I contributed to it. It was totally me, but I burned out. I was traveling all the time. I was always excited to meet with customers. It was a tremendous amount of energy expanded. But at the end of 3 years, I was really like, I think I'm going to hang up my hat for a year or so. I'm going to travel and take some downtime. And I knew that I needed it. What I didn't realize, I thought I was physically tired, but I was mentally exhausted. When you're giving so much of yourself to your work, to your family, to all the competing priorities that we have, you don't realize what a toll that takes on you. And the mental health actually does take a toll on your physical health. I think it happens first, and we kind of brush it off until we have high blood pressure, till we have a heart problem, but it starts really with our mental health. And so when Headspace called me up, I said, I don't think the mental health company is going to drive me crazy. And I really said that. And it has been such a gift.
Yeah, I would kind of hope with them being in a mental health space that would be a priority with the employees.
We do. We meditate every morning at 10 a.m. It's so much fun. I'm a fan of so many of our meditation instructors, but I remember the first day that I saw Dora at work in the office. And I was like, oh my God, it's Dora. It's the voice, and her voice is as soothing and calm in person as it is online. But I'll tell you, my favorite thing about Headspace is our sleep. Our sleep stories. We have the best sleep stories. Can I tell you about any of them? No, I cannot because I fall asleep. But Sleep Mountain's one of my favorite. But I think that these are things that I had a Headspace subscription. Did I use it? No, I didn't. And I think that these are things that they're easy to do. But I think developing a practice of mindfulness and meditation is important. I think the other thing that I didn't realize was important to me, and I'm a veteran also. And I think when I joined Headspace, one of the things that was really important to me is making mental health accessible to veterans. When I was in the Navy, I spent 9 years in the Navy. And when I was in the Navy, and it's still this way, mental health was very taboo. The mental health building was a separate building, and nobody wanted to walk through those doors. You didn't want all of your shipmates to know that you needed to talk to somebody, that you needed some support, much needed support, necessary support, but, too embarrassed to ask for that support. And so Headspace offers therapy over Zoom. In the privacy of your home, wherever you are, you can reach a therapist. And I think that is going to change the game for mental health. I'm really excited about how access to therapy and coaching has really changed our ability to access those services, and also to do so in the privacy of our homes or whatever space we're in.
Some people are really introverted and have a hard time being in person. So it's kind of nice to be able to do it from a location that's more comfortable for them.
Absolutely. I think that that's probably one of the keys to success for Headspace is just making mental health accessible to the world. It's not something that is just our tagline. It's something that we really believe in. But also, I think the other thing that has helped me is that I talk about mental health so much with my family and with my friends, and it doesn't feel taboo anymore. It's just something that you talk about it the same way you would talk about joining a new gym. We have no issue saying, hey, what gym do you go to? Where do you do Pilates at? We talk about the physical health. We recommend doctors to one another. And now I have a bunch of therapist friends that I'm like, hey, this person's great. This person's a child psychologist. And so I think that, we really need to try to remove the stigma. And it's especially important for CISOs and for folks in the cybersecurity community, because I think we love a good stigma. We really do. We'll put a name on something. I mean, think about it. Zero trust, digital transformation. We love a good stigma. We love to put a name around something. But I think that with mental health, we need to put our stamp on it as well. CISOs have a very hard job. And burnout is real in our community. And I think that while we're all ambitious and we're all very focused on protecting people, the first person that we need to protect is ourselves.
Yeah, I'm sure how was that transition coming out of the military to be able to adopt mental health and be okay with it? Because I know in the military, you got to, suck it up. You got to be tough.
Yeah.
And to be able to adopt that, how was that difficult?
I don't think I adopted it right away. I think it's taken years. I think when I got out of the military, and I'm a conflict veteran, and so when I got out of the military, I spent 9 years in the Navy, and I was still very young. In the military, I was middle-aged. When I got to Lockheed Martin, I realized that 27 is not middle-aged, right? It's You're still a really young person. And so I think that what I thought was being resilient, I thought that I was resilient, but I think it's certainly, in the 20 years since, it's taken a significant toll. My resilience wasn't in fact resilience. I think I have some grit, and I think that I'm someone who just works hard. But when you get to your 40s, your body doesn't hold up as well to some of the things that you do to it. And so I think it was a journey for me as well, a difficult journey to realize that, hey, I need to take care of my mental health. And so I didn't do it right away. I would say probably maybe 10 years after I got out of the military, I started to see a therapist. It was really important. And I think I started to see a therapist because I was starting to experience some of that fatigue and burnout from work, but I didn't know what it was. But being a high achieving person, I have anxiety. And so these are things that have helped me become a CISO. So I kind of felt like they were gifts. I have a lot of grit. And so I thought, well, this is just who I am. But you can also be a high achieving person and not have anxiety and really learn how to manage that. And I think that, knowing that I have anxiety and knowing that I've been diagnosed with it is you manage it differently. And I think that's where the mental health, physical health things come into play, because ultimately my anxiety drives some of my physical ailments as well. And so I think that I thought I was good at it. I was horrible at it. And most people think that they're good at it. But it really manifests itself in different ways. And that's why it's so important that you go and seek the kind of support. Headspace is everything from coaching all the way up to clinical levels of therapy. But we also have an AI chatbot called Ebb that navigates you through the ebbs and flows of life. So if you don't think that you want to talk to us and maybe you just want to peek in and see what's going on, you can pop in and chat with Ebb, and it helps recommend content for you, and it can be your safe space to talk. So I think that we're looking at it in a multitude of different ways, in that just talk to someone or something now, because we have AI, but get it out, have a conversation, understand, have clarity on where you are with your mental health. And in many cases, most people just need someone to talk to.
So as a high performance professional, how do you kind of balance that mental health and being high performance? Because you mentioned having grit. I mean, I'm sure your military helped you build that work ethic to not give up and stuff. So how do you kind of balance being a high performer with being in good mental health and in low stress?
I think that one of the most important things is that I had to learn that not everything begins and ends with me. While it's important to me to do a good job, it's okay if you go to sleep at night. It's okay if when you wake up in the morning, your Slack is not the first thing that you check. A day with me is I'll wake up in the morning and I will meditate, just 5 minutes. I also do our company meditation. So we have a 10 o'clock meditation every morning, Pacific time. And I don't do them every day, but I do them. I think the other thing is that, I recognize that my to-do list is always running. And so I'm not so hard on myself about the things that don't get done. I give myself a tremendous amount of grace now that I didn't give myself before. I think that the other thing that you learn as you become a more seasoned cybersecurity professional is that things happen. And it's not an if, it's not a if, it's a when. Something's going to happen. And I think the more senior you become in this industry, the way that you handle what happens, because you just get smoother at it. And so you're not so stressed out about it. Those incidents don't unravel you anymore. So I think that's important, really learning how to create balance for myself in this industry. Hiring's important. And so having people that you can trust at work and outside of work. I think I have a tribe of people who are incredibly supportive to me, that are helpful. My husband being probably the biggest supporter, because he really gets to see the intricacies of the work that I do. And so I think that that's helpful. But I think I have a more holistic approach. I will stop what I'm doing and take a walk in the middle of the day outside. That's not something that I ever would have done before. I think I picked that up from Nike. Nike was a place where we did walking meetings outside, beautiful trails in Oregon. And so it was just a part of our culture, one that I picked up and then kind of dropped and then said, you know what, that was a good thing to do. You can put your headphones on. You can take meetings outside too, but really taking 15 minutes to go walk around the block, nothing's going to happen during that time. And so I think it's just a very different approach, one that probably feels touchy-feely to people, but I think it's necessary.
So have you seen like employees' performance? Because I know you have people come in new and they got access to all this mental health and the meditation. Have you seen that transform your employees? I'll
tell you something. I was stunned when we did our Glint survey at Headspace. My team has the highest morale in the whole company.
Wow.
The InfoSec team. Generally, it's the opposite. We're normally somewhere in the bottom quartile, but I think that really speaks to the culture of Headspace, a lived culture, to see an InfoSec, and I lead InfoSec, IT, and cloud, and privacy. And so I think it really speaks to the ethos of the company. We just don't stress our employees out in that way. And I think that it's important to many companies have an ethos that they don't apply to their own employees. Headspace isn't like that. We have that ethos that applies to our employees. We're very thoughtful about how we treat our employees. In addition to that, our customers are healthcare companies. They're insurance companies. They're providers. And I think that it's important to us that our employees, when interacting, that there's an authenticity in what we do. And so I think they're just treated really well. Lots of conversations, lots of open conversations, it doesn't feel also taboo to, you don't have to, there's no stigma around taking a mental health day at Headspace. We go, oh, all right, well, enjoy. It's not a thing. And I think that is the thing that's critical for us as leaders. There are things that will help create longevity, that will help with attrition, that will create better retention. And they're small things, they're human things, they're people things. And I think that we don't always do the best job at understanding what they are. But I think Headspace does understand that because we've got therapists that work at the company, right? We got a chief clinical officer who's phenomenal. And I think that's the other part. When your colleagues are doctors and they are therapists, I think there's just this, I would say I'm probably a whole lot more transparent when talking to them about the things that are hard as they relate to cybersecurity, because I know that there's this level of empathy and compassion that they have, that they're trained to have, but I think it's authentic as well. And so the hard things just are a lot easier.
So the way this is kind of your experience there with the mental health, working there, how has that kind of transformed how you work with your employees? Has it made it less stressful? Easier to manage?
I think it's made it less stressful, but I think more than anything, it's made me more authentic as a leader. And I think when you are an authentic version of yourself, you are a better version of yourself. And I think that my employees can see that and they can feel that. And so, there are days when I will be in a meeting and I'll say, I'm really tired today. And I just want to let you guys know, because maybe I'm a little snappy or, maybe I'm a little short. That's not something that I probably would have done before. I would have maybe said something about what was going on, but I wouldn't have just been honest and been like, I didn't sleep well. Yeah. But that's not a thing at Headspace. Not sleeping well is like, well, we have sleep therapy. You know what I mean? And so, but I say those kinds of things now. I think my humanity shines through in a very different way. And I think the employees can see it and understand it, and it allows them to do the same.
That's good, because when you kind of humanize your manager, see them as a human, it's easier to deal with instead of, fearing your manager.
When your manager is like, I am absolutely over the coals because of daylight savings time, which is my current issue. I'm like, oh gosh, this is daylight savings time. But it's something that I vocalize, right? As a very senior leader, we don't always vocalize the parts of us that are human. We may talk about our kids, or we may talk about our pets, but we don't say things about ourselves that are true all the time. And I don't think everything is appropriate, but if you're tired, you're tired. If you didn't sleep well, you didn't sleep well. That's something that you can share.
Yeah, in those cases, it's better to share that you didn't sleep well, you're tired, opposed to just someone just think you're just not doing a good job,
or the employees think you aren't paying attention to them, or that they've prepared a presentation for you and you're kind of zoned out. Or even to that point, I would say, I'm going to reschedule. I'm not feeling that great today. I want to give your presentation the time and attention that it deserves. That is something that is very easy to do now. And I think that I'll always carry this with me, because I think it's important. And I think it's important that we have the ability to be honest about what our challenges are.
Yeah, that's good. And one of the things I can kind of see is kind of generationally, it seems like the younger generation are adopting that more.
Absolutely.
And one of the things I've seen too is the older generation is not as accepting of that, because you should be tough. You don't be a snowflake or whatever. And so I
think it's absolutely generational. And I sit right in the middle of two generations. And I think my generation got some of it, but my generation is the generation that was raised by the boomers. And so we also feel like we should be tough because that's the generation that we grew up with. But then I have the millennials, which I'm also in that generation, whom are like, yeah, but what about me? And I think that there is space for all of those things. I think that we can still learn. You can still be tough. I think that's still necessary. And there are a lot of roles that you are still going to have some grit. Cybersecurity is one of those jobs that you are going to still have some grit. However, you can also be kind to yourself in the practice of what we're doing.
Yeah, it's really interesting, the whole generational thing. And one of the things, fortunately, I'm a Gen Xer, first generation Gen Xer right at the end of boomers. And fortunately, one of the things I've tried to do over the years is listen to the younger generations, and from teaching at the colleges to teach pen testing, and just learning. The best thing I did for me professionally is to understand the younger generation, because a lot of times us older folks get frustrated because they don't understand them. It's just like, listen, try to get to understand them. It's not that hard. And
if you don't understand them, they will quit a job without another job. It's very different than what I think we were taught. They will absolutely quit today. They will quit on their first day of work. What they prioritize is different. And the experience matters to them. And so we have to understand that the experience matters, that the experience is important, and that they have prioritized, I think they have prioritized mental health probably better than any other generation. And so we have to accept that they are the future. When we are gone, they will all still be here. The workforce will probably look a little different and feel a little bit different. And that's not a bad thing. It's just the evolution.
Yeah.
And there are kids. We did this.
I like the idea of a kinder, gentler society. And
I'd be totally okay with that. I think that if we had a kinder, gentler society, I wouldn't be a combat veteran, right? And so I think that's something that, and I'll tell you, I don't think that this is a generation of young people that we're going to be able to send off to war.
Yeah.
I don't think that that's the case. But again, these are our kids. We raised them to believe in these things. We raised them to be better than us. And now that we see that manifesting them in them as adults, we have to be accepting of what we've done.
Kind of some of the things you mentioned kind of made me think. You'd even talked about employee retention. So what are some things that you do to help with your employee retention beyond the mental health benefits of Headspace?
I think that it's important to allow people to be who they are. And I don't say that in the context, like work has a culture, every company has a culture. But I don't think that culture fit is the right word. I think that people add to the culture, right? The culture is not a singular thing. It's all of the things that all of the people make it. And so when I think about when new employees come, I always am thinking about the ways in which that they can add to the culture. And there are small things, like I don't have kids, but I do have a cat. I am in the cat group at Headspace, chatting away and posting pictures of my cat. And I think that initially they probably thought it was pretty strange, like, oh, because they call us the execs, and we get the quotation marks. But then here I am just being very human and, chatting about my cat. And, and I think that is helpful. When you see your boss's boss post a picture of their cat wearing a sweater, it does something. It also is a conversation point. So that kind of lends itself to when I'm doing my one-on-ones. People will talk to me about things other than work. And that's what I hope happens. We can talk about work until we're blue in the face, but there are other things, there are other qualities that people have that are really, really important to them. And getting to know my team members is important to me. And sometimes, and I still have team members who don't talk to me very much, and I'm scary, so I understand that. But even that, right, I understand, they're like, she is, woof. It's a lot going on there. I get that too. But there are employees who see all of the other things that I'm doing and they talk to me about those things. And that is important to me too. And I think that setting that standard for myself and then also my leaders, I have a very dynamic and diverse group of leaders. And it's critically important to me that in me being authentic, that they understand that they should be as well. We are all vastly different, but we are all welcome and we are all accepted. And so I think that is a part of what it starts at the top. That is absolutely true. How you show up for your team, how you show up as a leader matters tremendously. I am also really, really tough. I am a really, really tough person to work for. I recognize that. I want you to do your job. One of the things that I get asked often is, well, why do you like certain employees? I was like, I don't really like any of you. You're my colleagues. I was like, but what I do like is people who do their job. I put that at the forefront that, performance, the way that you do your work is important to me. And not even, I don't want to say performance, but I think that being good at your job, mastering what you do, it makes me incredibly proud to watch my leaders master what they do. I am very transparent about teaching them what I know. I do not hold knowledge to myself. If there's something that I know and I think they need to know it, I tell them. I tell them in groups, I tell them in one-on-ones. I'm a feedback person, but my feedback is every day. It's not let's wait till you're one-on-one. I'm on Slack, I text them, I give feedback continuously because I think it's important to have the kinds of relationships where you can be honest with people. And that doesn't start with the negative feedback and it doesn't start with your performance review. It starts with the first day that you start there and the kind of relationship that you build. And so I think that has allowed me to have pretty good, retention, but also I will go back and get people from other companies to come and work for me. And to me, it is one of the things that I am most proud of, that people like working with me, that the journey is such that they would do it again. Yeah. Because this is a hard space to recruit in. It's hard to get talent and retain talent in cybersecurity. So I think that, and it's just fun. I like to have fun. I think that, yes, it's work. It's not called recess, as my dad would say. He's like, you're not there for recess, it's work. And I say that at work too. I'm like, you guys, this is not a volunteer job. We pay you to be here. This isn't recess. This isn't, but at the same time, we can still have a lot of fun in the course of doing the work that we do. And so those are the things that are important. The other thing is that I drive a hard line about how you treat people. There are not a lot of reasons that people have been fired by me. But if you treat someone poorly, I will fire you in a heartbeat. That is the number one thing that I think my leaders know about me is that I am paying attention to how you treat the people that work for you. And if I see any inkling of what I think is maltreatment or ill treatment, you're out of here. Not only that, and I've not had to do it very often, maybe once or twice in almost 30 years, but I think that people know she'll do it, and she'll do it without a blink of an eye. I think that's also important. So there are things that are like the soft skill things, but there are things about being in business that just must be so. I think that if we held those standards more often, we wouldn't find ourselves in some of the trouble that we find ourselves in.
Yeah, I think that's awesome that you get the balance between the toughness and understanding of the people. My wife's the same type of manager that, her employees, she makes sure to do the work. And one of the things she is a high performer too. And one of the things about high performers, they kind of expect people to do their work. I mean,
absolutely.
It's not exactly like they expect them to kill themselves or do something that they wouldn't do.
Do the job we hired you to do.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the generational challenges come in as well. I said a couple of weeks ago, I was like, don't let these TikTok work advice get you fired. Because I'm like, well, y'all, they're influencers, right?
Yes.
Some of them are experts, but many of them are not experts. They don't even work in HR. They're influencers. And so I'm like, be thoughtful about where you get advice from, because some of it is really bad advice and you're going to get fired.
Yeah, being viral doesn't mean it's good.
It does not mean it's good. I'm like, don't do that. Do not do that.
Yeah, it's pretty challenging times. So what was your presentation on at Blackout?
So today I was on the executive stage talking about privacy and AI. And I think there were some good cliff notes from it. But one of the things that really stuck with me was the expectation of privacy in the AI space is going to change. We talked about data privacy, which is what we currently do, right? And the example that was given, it was my example, but I told him I'm stealing his example because I thought it was great. Was that data privacy is like DLP. We know we have data loss prevention systems. They are pretty much scanning everything that you do on your work laptop in and out of house all day long. And you know that it's a machine that's doing it. And although we might be slightly annoyed, we don't really care. AI is really moving us into the space of knowledge privacy. And that's a different space because AI does have essentially a stream of consciousness and it can judge you. In many cases, we're okay with DLP because it doesn't judge us. It makes decisions based on machine learning. It makes decisions based on workflows that we've put in place that we've built in and said, this is the company's crown jewels and this data can't leave. AI didn't really work like that. AI is like, I know it's the company's crown jewels and I know you tried to steal it, but maybe you're a bad person because of it, right? It's a different way of handling data. And it's a different way of looking at privacy. AI is meant to essentially mimic humans. And humans will judge you. And we will judge you harshly.
Yep.
And so I think that when we think about knowledge privacy and AI, it's a different space. And we really have to look at what we're doing from a morality perspective at this point. And as a CISO, that's a different kind of job, right? We are CIA triad people, confidentiality, integrity, availability. Well, AI is blowing that out of the water. And so I think that our conversation was riveting around what are we going to do? We don't have the answers yet. And I think that that's, something that for a CISO is a really hard thing. We're kind of zero-sum people. We want an answer. And we don't have that answer yet. And I think the other thing that we have to do is there's some risk that we have to accept to allow innovation to happen. And so we talked a little bit about that as well.
Very cool. It's just really interesting, just the whole theme and just interviewing some of the other speakers. It's really interesting to think about how security has evolved, where it was just data at one time. Now you have AI, as you mentioned, of course, there's data involved with it, but the processing of that, but also content. So we had someone in here from Peloton. So you can just imagine some of those devices, the content training, the training content, they have this intellectual property, that the videos doesn't get stolen, the content you have like on your
it's PII,
sleep stories
right?
and all that.
Essentially, yeah.
So it's just gotten so complex. Back when I started in cybersecurity in 2004, man, it was so much easier back then. It's just amazing.
It was usernames and passwords, right?
Yes, yeah.
That was the bulk of what we were trying to. I mean, there were other things, right? But it was a vastly different world.
Yeah, our security team back then, I worked for a mortgage company, and we had like 4 or 5 of us. They handled firewall, intrusion detection systems, vulnerability scanning.
The cloud wasn't here yet. Everything was on-prem.
Yeah. And then you had the team that was setting up user accounts, and it was all manual because you didn't have this stuff that
no identity and access management, right? There wasn't.
So it was manual identity access management. So it's amazing how it's changed.
Yeah. And my last role, I was in identity CISO.0, and it's probably the funnest job I ever had, but it was a hard job to do because we're dealing with human nature. Right? There's this idea that we need to protect people, but we also need them to do it in as frictionless way as possible. There are all these things that need to happen in order for us to make that space work. And I think that it really reminded me how far the industry has come in the last couple of years. I would say the last 10 years.
Yes.
How far the industry has come, because the space that we work in now doesn't have any boundaries. We worked within we were on-prem. It was, smaller teams. The internet was different. And now we are boundaryless. We work anywhere, everywhere, all the time. And our work as CISOs has changed because now we are global. Many of us are global CISOs, and there aren't boundaries to what we're trying to protect. Yeah,
it's amazing how it's evolved. So that's a wrap. A big thank you to Jameeka for joining me today. Let's close this file chapter until the next one. This is Phillip Wylie signing off.